should be, selling product. And what I want to make clear is that you will sell more life insurance if you stop trying to sell life insurance, and if you would start trying to protect your book of business. So what I want you to do is, in your mind, have the obligation that you have to at least ask everybody in your book of business if they've got adequate life insurance. You've got to at least have that conversation. Whether they buy it or not is up to them, but it's not up to them whether you talk to them about it. So what you want to do is understand that those kids in your book of business would be devastated if something happened to their parents and they didn't have adequate life insurance. So in your mindset, focus on helping your book of business, focus on protecting your book of business instead of trying to sell cases, okay? So it's not about selling like 70 life apps in 70 days. It sounds like we're trying to be transactional. What we're trying to do is get your mindset changed that you're gonna protect your book of business so well that you're gonna end up writing 70 life apps in 70 days because you're gonna take it so serious. So understand it's a process over just the product. The other thing is, Ann talked about why people are so underinsured, or that most of your book is, and I will tell you, almost your entire book of business is underinsured for life insurance. In fact, let me be so bold, I believe everyone in this room is currently underinsured for life insurance. Now let me try to prove that to you. We are basically in a 1% interest rate environment right now, because if you go down to the bank and if you had $100,000 and you try to buy a CD, you're going to earn about 1%. So I say we're in a 1% interest rate environment. So just think about this. How much life insurance would it take in a 1% interest rate environment to protect $50,000 worth of income? The answer is $5 million. $5 million invested at 1% interest will give you $50,000 every year. So now let me ask you the question, how many of your clients that are making $50,000 a year are walking around with $5 million worth of life insurance? And how many of you that are making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 are walking around with $20, $30, $40 million worth of life insurance? Now you say, well, Tom, that's ridiculous. Okay. Well, what if interest rates were 5%? They're not, but what if they were? How much life insurance would it take in a 5% interest rate environment to protect $50,000 of income? The answer is $1 million. That is not ridiculous. So what I'm telling you is that every one of your clients should be carrying at least $1 million of life insurance for every $50,000 of income. You should too. Now I know some of you think that's still too high, so now I'm going to try to prove that it's not. I told you that I wrote Paychecks and Playchecks, I wrote Don't Worry, Retire Happy, but in between those books I wrote another book. It's called Retirement Income Master, Secrets of the Pros. And what I did with this book is I went around the country and I found 14 top producers. These are advisors, agents, and every chapter is their story. What do they do? How do they explain this? Well, when I was writing the conclusion to this book, this story happened to me. So I put it in the conclusion of this book, but this is a true story. Let me set it up this way. This happened about 4 years ago. I left my house. I was gone all week, kind of doing meetings like this. Then I spoke at MDRT in Philadelphia over the weekend, and then I continued the next week speaking. So I left my house. I was gone for 13 straight days. I don't know if you've ever been gone for 13 straight days, but you can't pack a carry-on for 13 straight days. So you either have to check bags or you got to do laundry. So I had to do laundry on the road. So I was gone for 13 days. I come home for one day on Saturday, and I leave Sunday for 6 more days. So I just want you to know, in this situation, I was gone 19 out of 20 days. So you can imagine what my Saturday looked like. First of all, I was exhausted. Second of all, I had to do expenses for 2 weeks. Third, I had to get ready to leave the next day. Fourth, I got a wife and 4 kids that want to see their dad every once in a while. My day was packed. Well, a couple days before I got home, my oldest son, Ryan, gave me a call and he said, Dad, I need a favor. My best friend's brother died 3 weeks ago, and his wife, the widow, just got the check. And it's a big check, and she wants to meet with you on Saturday. I said, Ryan, what does she want to meet with me for? I don't do any more personal production. I'm a speaker author full time. I don't sell anything anymore. And he goes, well, that's why she wants to meet with you, because she knows you know this stuff and you're not going to try to sell her anything. I said, Ryan, I've been gone for 13 days. I'm leaving for 6 days. I'm not taking my 1 day off that I'm exhausted and driving around the valley looking for some woman who wants to talk to me. But I said, here's what I'll do. If they want to come to my house, I'll meet with them at 9 a.m. on Saturday. Well, guess what? The widow, the dad, and the brother show up at my house. They sat around my dining room table. She was 42 years of age, 2 little girls, husband killed unexpectedly, a $1 million death claim. After I gave my condolences, she said these words. She said, Tom, I never thought I'd be a millionaire. Now here's what I want to do. I want to build a custom house on a lake with a place for my daughters to play. I don't want a cookie cutter house. I want a custom house on a lake, place for my daughters to play. I literally had to stop her mid-sentence and say, ma'am, time out. We're not talking any custom houses today. Do you realize you only have $1 million? In a 1% interest rate environment, that's $10,000 a year. I am here to see how you and your daughters are possibly going to survive on $10,000 a year. Now maybe you could get 20,000, maybe 25, maybe 35, 38, but every expert I know says you can't take out 4%. 4% is going to fail, especially this has to last for 50 years. So I said max, and this is pushing it, you are a $38,000 a year woman, you're not a millionaire. There's no custom houses that I'm aware of at $38,000 a year. She was shocked. What are you talking about? My husband made $250,000 a year. We can't live on $38,000 a year. Ladies and gentlemen, what is the minimum? The minimum somebody making $250,000 a year should have in life insurance. $5 million. We could have a different conversation. But I'm telling you a true story about a widow in Arizona who thought she was a millionaire, who is now stuck living a $38,000 a year life with her 2 little girls. But I'm telling you the story, but I'm looking out here right now wondering how many people in this room, if something happened to you on the way home, would your family be in the exact same position? So my #1 best life insurance sales idea for you today is this: get your own situation straight. Make sure you are carrying at least $1 million of life insurance for every $50,000 of income, and recommend that on all your appointments. Now, they're not all going to buy, but why don't you say these words? Our firm professionally recommends you carry at least $1 million of life insurance for every $50,000 of income. And when they say, well, that sounds a little high to me, you tell them the story of the widow in Arizona who thought she was a millionaire, who is now stuck living a $38,000 a year life with her 2 little girls. Think of all those clients that you're selling a $100,000, $200,000 term policy to. What are they going to do with $200,000 in a 1% interest rate environment? That's $166 a month. Are you telling me when you sell them that $200,000 policy that you're okay with them getting $166 a month? Because that's all they'll give them for the rest of their lives. $166 a month. Can you run your household on $166 a month? So try to figure out how much life insurance you really need in this low interest rate environment. I'm just telling you, people have no idea how underinsured they are. Now sometimes, Ann, you like to do a little thing where you walk around and say how much life insurance.
Okay.
You might want to do that one right now.
Okay. All right, so let me ask you a question. If something were to happen to you tomorrow, you were to die suddenly, and you wanted your family to be financially set where they wouldn't have to worry about money again, how much additional life insurance would you want them to have?
$2 million.
750,000, how much?
500,000 more.
500,000 more? Laura?
Probably $1 million.
Mia?
750,000.
5 million more. 2 million.
$1 million.
How much more?
2 million.
125.
And 33 cents. No, no, it's easy. How much more? $250,000, all right.
Now, think about that. That was just in this room
Right.
amongst insurance professionals that do this for a living. What do you think the answer would be if your book of business just sat through here and I just did what I just did? What do you think that number would be in your book of business? It would be hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars that they are underinsured. Think about that. So, I mean, that is the potential. It's out there. It's just, how are you explaining why they need this much? Because they do. And if they have $200,000 at work and something happens, that is not going to be adequate coverage. They will not be able to live their normal lifestyle. So some of you know Joe Jordan. He's approved in State Farm. He's a personal friend of mine. He's in all of my books. He's been a mentor to me. I would not be here today if it weren't for Joe Jordan. But I don't know if you've ever heard his talk, Living a Life of Significance. He wrote a book as well. I'll give you the Cliff Notes. Joe's dad was a very powerful man. He was an advisor to President Harry Truman. But a few days before his dad died, he had cashed out all his life insurance policies. Joe's book starts there. His mom had 4 little kids. She had to sell everything they owned. She had to get 2 jobs just to put food on the table. When it came time for college, she couldn't put them all through, just the boys, not the girls. And Joe's book talks about how that affected brother-sister relationships for the rest of their lives. Then when she got to retirement, she didn't have any money. She felt like a burden, so she just decided to die. And Joe's book was a cry out, where was my dad's financial advisor? How could he let this happen to our family? And so my point in putting this up is this. When you are on an appointment and there are children in that house, you must be relentless recommending life insurance. You don't take no once, you don't take no twice, you don't take no 3 times. You be relentless recommending life insurance when there are children in that home. You've got to stick up for those kids because nobody else is going to. And if something happens to those parents when they have inadequate life insurance, who's going to pay the price for that? It's going to be the kids in your book of business. So if you want to have something that drives you every day, stick up for the kids in your book of business. Focus on that. Focus, I'm not going to let that tragedy happen in my book of business. It might happen in somebody else's book of business, but I'm at least going to recommend that these people buy more life insurance. Whether they buy it or not, that's on them. But it's on you to recommend it and to protect the kids, okay? And I had another slide here, and I don't know where it is. It's not popping up, but you know, on the day you die, your spouse is going to ask 4 simple questions. And it's not going to be, do we have term life or whole life or variable life? Do we have MetLife or New York Life or State Farm? Those aren't the 4 questions. The 4 questions your spouse is going to ask. How much life insurance do we have? How long will the dollars last? Can we stay in our same house? And can the kids go to the same school?
Okay, wait a minute, I'm writing this down.
How much life insurance do we have? How long will the dollars last? Can we stay in our same house? And can the kids go to the same school? Those are the 4 questions your spouse is going to ask. Now let me turn this around. That when you're sitting down in front of somebody and say, "Well, I don't need any life insurance. I don't even want to talk about it." You just pause and you say, "Well, do you realize that if something happened to you, your family cannot stay in that house? You understand that, and your kids will not be able to continue to go to the school. So have you thought about what schools you're going to put them in and where you're going to have to move? Because you obviously can't live in that house with the amount of life insurance that you have." I just want to make sure that's clear. And you talk that way to the spouse and see if that doesn't change their mind a little bit, okay? So those are the things that are really important. Can they stay in their same house? Can the kids go to the same school? So those would be great talking points to have with these people.
I love that, what we talked about before, is have the customer come up with the 4 questions their spouse would ask them. Don't even give them those answers yet, right?
Right.
I mean, just say, hey, by the way, if something were to happen, what are the 4 questions your spouse would have? See what they come up with.
Yeah. Now, Anne really likes this one. This is a keychain because it's a very easy way to transition. Anne gave you some transition from auto to life and from homeowners to life. Let me give you my versions of that, okay? So, as I said, I did write a lot of P&C when I was at MetLife, and it was very easy for me to transition from homeowners to life insurance, because the way I did it is say, okay, hey, I got your homeowners packet already, it's ready for closing. Now we need to talk about mortgage protection. So we talk about homeowners, now we got to talk about mortgage protection. What's mortgage protection? Well, it's something that if you die, the house will be paid off. That's life insurance. Mortgage protection is life insurance. So that's an easy one, I think, to go from homeowners to mortgage protection, okay? To go from auto to life is a little harder. Now I've got a couple ways to do it. Number one, I got the keychain thing, I'm going to do that in a second, but number 2, this one won't work for all of you, but it worked for me. I would sit back in my chair and I'd say, you know what, I got an insurance riddle for you. If you owned the golden goose that laid the golden eggs, but you could only insure one, which would you insure? The eggs or the goose? What do you think almost everybody says? The goose. That's you. We got to talk about you. We got all your eggs covered. We got your homeowners. We got your auto. We got your boat. We got this. We got to talk about you. Okay? So that's an insurance riddle. You might not work for you. It worked for me. The other one is the keychain, and I think that'll work for everybody. And you take out your keychain and you say, you know, what's on your keychain? and you pull out the car key. We got your car insured. You know, if you drive out of here and total your car, guess what? State Farm can get you a brand new car. That's really, guys, we got that covered. What else is on? Oh, your house key. Did you know if your house burns down to the ground, State Farm's gonna build you a brand new house? We got that covered. Oh, we got your boat key. You know, if you are out on Memorial Day and you wreck your boat, guess what? State Farm's gonna get you a new boat. We got replacement on your car, we got replacement on your house, we got replacement on your boat, and then drop your car keys. But what about you? We don't have a full replacement policy on you. We need to get a full replacement policy on you. Why would we insure your car, your house, your boat, and not have a full replacement policy on you? So it's an easy transition if you just use those keychains. So, you know, you got your car, we got that, we got your house, but what are you worth? Now, there's two ways to predict human capital and what a replacement value is. So, two ways to determine your replacement value. The first one, survivor income needs. I just showed you how to do that when I said $1 million invested at 5% interest will produce $50,000 of income. That's why I said if you're making $50,000, you need at least $1 million of life insurance because you can't even find 5% right now. So that's not at all ridiculous. So $1 million for every $50,000. I said that's so simple you can put it on a Starbucks napkin, which is another idea for you. You're going to have some people that don't want to come into the office. They're going to say, no, I don't want to come in. And, well, can we come over to your house? No, you can't come over. You're going to have some of those people. So you know where they will meet you? At Starbucks. Say, hey, I got a Starbucks card. I'd like to get you one of those new pumpkin lattes or whatever those things are. And they will meet you at Starbucks. Did you know there is a top-of-the-table producer who does all of her appointments in Starbucks in Queens, New York. She literally has her own table in Queens, New York Starbucks. And she rotates people through there every 30 minutes. She does all her business in the Starbucks in Queens, New York. So what I'm telling you is some of these things are so simple you can do it on the back of a napkin. Now this human capital, the full replacement value, we talked about human life value, we talked about the 9/11 Commission, we talked about lifehappens.org, their human value calculator, but let me kind of explain what this human capital is. When I was at New York Life worked with Morningstar and Ibbotson. They spent a lot of money, spent a lot of time studying this human capital. And human capital can be very complicated. I'm going to try to make it as simple as I can, okay? So let me try to explain to you what your human capital is. Your human capital is the present value of all your future earnings. So all the money you're going to earn for the rest of your life, if you calculate that back at an inflation factor, that is your human capital. And when you add your human capital to your financial capital, that's your stocks, your bonds, your mutual funds, your 401k, all your savings and investments, that is your total economic wealth. So you add your human capital plus your financial capital equals your total economic wealth. Well, what this study found is that most financial advisors only focus on financial capital. Hey, how much is in your 401k? What's in that brokerage account? Let's move that over. You got that annuity over there at MetLife? Let's roll that over to State Farm. And so most advisors only focus on people's financial capital. What this study said is that you should be talking to people about their human capital as well, okay? And that young people, millennials in the room, millennials, you may not have a lot of financial capital right now, but you are a multi-millionaire in human capital. So we should be talking to these millennials about their human capital, not just their financial capital, okay? And so the way that this human capital works is as you go through your life and you're earning money and you're working, you're supposed to save and invest some of your money into your financial capital. So you're supposed to turn your human capital into your financial capital. You understand that? So as you're saving and as you're working and earning, you're supposed to save some money. So young people, like a baby has no financial capital. But a baby is a multi-millionaire in human capital. But as you get older, your human capital goes down because you're not going to be working for that many more years. And so once you're 65 or 70, your human capital is down almost to nothing because you're not going to work and earn any more money. But hopefully you turned your human capital into financial capital. Everybody understand me so far? So you would expect young people have a lot of human capital. They might not have much financial capital. Hopefully by the time you're older, you've saved up financial capital because you're not going to have much human capital because you're not going to work that many more years, okay? Well, it just so happens life insurance is the only thing that can protect your human capital. So there is no other product that you can buy that will protect your human capital. So what this whole theory says is this: if your total economic wealth is 1.5 million and you have 800,000 of human capital and 700,000 of financial capital, if you don't have any life insurance, when you die, your family only gets the 700,000 of financial capital. They only get your stocks, your bonds, your 401k. All your human capital is gone. You died. It went. You didn't have it protected. And all this is saying is that you should take just a little bit of your total economic wealth and buy life insurance to cover your human capital. So that whether you're alive or whether you die, your family is protected, whether you live or whether you die. That's this whole thing on human capital. So just understand, only life insurance can protect your human capital. If you don't know what your human capital or your replacement value is, you can go to lifehappens.org, use that calculator. You can do an estimate off of the 9/11 Victims Compensation Fund. Oh, here's the 4 questions. So upon your death, your spouse is going to ask 4 simple questions. How much life insurance do we have? How long will the dollars last? Can we stay in our same house? And can the kids go to the same school? My question, what do you want the answers to be? And if people don't have time, oh, I don't want to talk about it, I don't need it, I got it, just say, well, according to our notes, your family will not be able to stay in your house if something happened to you. Is that okay with both you and your spouse? And of course, that means the kids won't be able to go to that same school. Is that going to be okay? So those are very powerful questions. They kind of get into the emotional side of life insurance. Now, what about thoughts about a non-working spouse? Let's say a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home dad. Should you have life insurance on a stay-at-home mom or stay-at-home dad? Yeah, but they're not making any money. That's exactly right. It's not about the income. It's about the value they bring to that family. Think about me. I'm on the road every single day. If something happened to my wife, she runs everything. She runs the entire house. So if something happened to her, what would I have to do? I'd be shut down. That's it. I'm done. End of story. I'm done. I have a very large policy on her because she brings tremendous value to the house. She's not making money, but she's bringing value that if she wasn't there, how much would that cost me? It cost me a lot of money to take care of the family the way she takes care of it. I mean, so it's not just about money, it's about the value that they bring and what their absence would cause financial problems to that family. What about thoughts on children and grandchildren? I get a lot of people say, oh, it's disgusting that you would insure a child, that you're going to try to profit from the death of that child. That is not why you buy life insurance on children. Nobody buys life insurance to profit on the death of their kids. So that's kind of a disgusting thought that they have anyway, but that's the way a lot of people think. So let me tell you a couple things. Number one, if you ever read Paychecks and Playchecks, you're going to read in there that my son JJ, when he was 8 years of age, had a brain tumor the size of my fist in the back of his brain. And he had to go in for 7 hours of brain surgery as an 8-year-old. Almost died. Now, it's kind of an interesting story because it happened during the Super Bowl. That Super Bowl was that week in Phoenix, Arizona. And JJ was at Phoenix Children's Hospital preparing for brain surgery on Monday, but the Super Bowl was on Sunday. Well, guess what? All these athletes come. Well, we're in Phoenix. Half the kids don't speak English, and most of those kids watch soccer. They don't watch football necessarily. The other half were girls that don't necessarily aren't football fans. And so there was a very few number of boys in that hospital that liked football. So guess what? All the pro football players came into JJ's room. I had Brett Favre and his wife sitting right there as close as we're talking to Brett Favre and his wife. They hung out in JJ's room for 30 minutes, had Lydell Mitchell, had John Runyon, had Franco Harris. I mean, these are Hall of Famers of NFL. The New England Patriots cheerleaders came in there, I mean, it was pretty cool stuff. But my whole point of this is 8-year-olds aren't supposed to have brain surgery. But you know what? He was uninsurable now. He was uninsurable for how many years? I don't know. Now he's 18. He graduates next week. He's fine. He got an Army ROTC scholarship. He's kind of following that. But I didn't have to worry because with every kid, as soon as they were born, bought as big a policy as I could buy them. Every one of them. And so for JJ at the time, it was $500,000. Back then, that was the biggest you could buy in a kid. Now you can probably buy $1 million or something. But I always bought the largest possible, not to profit from their death, but to lock in their insurability. Because now, no matter what, I know JJ's got $500,000. No matter what, he's got that. Okay? The other thing is, if you ever have had somebody in your book of business that has lost a child, maybe we have somebody in this room who's lost a child. Can you go back to work the next day, everything's fine, you know, no big deal? I know people who've been wiped out for years. Well, you know, how long is an employer gonna take that? You know, you've got to have some money there that can take care of you and your spouse. If something happened to a child, you're not just gonna go back to work the next day. So I'm just telling you, there are many reasons to have life insurance on a child. Profiting from their death is not one of them, okay? So I would strongly recommend that you recommend people buy policies on their children, and those older people coming in, talk to them about their grandchildren. Hey, I got a great Christmas present idea for you. Instead of getting those toys where the battery goes bad and they break, you know, these toys don't even last anymore. They're all cheap as can be. They bust over the weekend. Instead of doing that, let's set up this plan for your grandchild and run some illustrations that show the grandchild having $1 million when they're 65. That sounds like a lot of money. The grandparent doesn't have to put that much in there. And you could even do a 10 pay or a 15 pay and show them how much they put in to have the grandchild have $1 million at age 65. Say, you know, it's gonna be tough for these kids because the government's broke, there's all these problems. Why don't we set it up? And if $1 million's too much, show them, give them $500,000, $250,000. So show the grandparents the reason why they ought to buy life insurance on their grandchildren. Okay. You're gonna have them come up with some questions.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here writing my own little questions here. All right, based on what Tom just covered with us, went over, okay, from the $1 million for every 50,000, stick up for the kids, what's on your keychain, human capital, non-working spouse, grandchildren and children. Each table, I want you to come up with at least 2 questions for Tom, all right? Based on what we just covered. So take a look at your notes, 1 to 2 questions, right? All right, so give you a minute or 2 to come up with some questions for him. Because I've got questions, so you must have questions because you sell the stuff.
What do you guys think? What kind of questions do you guys have?
Well, I think we ask them for a line. What's the line?
What's the what?
What's a line? You know, like, someone just had a baby, how do you, what's the best line to, you know, say? What are the words?
So like a word track to like bring that up to new parents or
just like,
something. Like
just an opening line.
get your kid off to the right financial start or something like that. We want to meet with you to see. You know, I like how he said it. Things are tough out there. They're going to be really tough for these kids with Social Security and all of
Now
that.
our kids are gonna have Social Security.
Yeah, so they're giving them a gift. I thought that was cool, you know. What else? What else is another question you guys have? So an opening line to kind of pivot to kids policies, right? Like a good kids policy, or even like a good, and like what would be a good little kids policy presentation? Like how would you present it, you know, once they come in? Like how do you bring it up and how do you present it? Because you're right, I mean, $25,000, and then maybe does he spend that to college savings too, or like does he go that route? So just kind of maybe more.
Is he preferring whole life? I'm sure, right? Can you not?
Well, I mean UL. You mean whole life or UL?
I didn't know if they were, I didn't know that you could do term.
You can't do term, no, but you could do a universal life. So I guess that's a good question too. We have so many. We have more than 2, Tom.
Okay, some good questions over here. All right, you guys ready for the question? All right, who has a question for, what's the question?
So we've had customers tell us, I don't wanna make them rich after I die. How would you? open
Okay,
that?
they don't wanna make the kids rich?
The kid, the spouse.
Okay, well, I mean, think about it. $1 million in a 1% interest rate environment is $10,000 a year. Is a family rich? You know, I mean, they gotta leave a lot of money to make somebody rich today. And so, you know, I think they just think in their mind, because $1 million to everyone in this room sounds like a lot of money. I mean, hey, if I had $1 million, right, you wouldn't be rich. I hate to tell you, $1 million will not make you rich anymore. You're not rich on $1 million. So you know, I hear that, and when we get to the objection part, I'll come back and I'll handle some of those objections, but I would just tell you, they're likely not leaving their family rich right now. There are very few of your customers in your book of business that have enough life insurance that their family will be rich when they die. What we're trying to do is keep them off the streets. We're trying to keep them in their same house and go to the same school. And if you think that, you know, keeping your kids in the same house as the same school is rich, I just think we want to try to keep the lifestyle as close to similar as we can. You're not going to be there, but we'd like the financial lifestyle to be as close to the same, whether you're there or not. You know, and I'll handle, you know, I don't want her to get rich and, you know, she'll run up with Fred at the bowling alley. I'll come to that one when I get to objections.
Okay, all right, what question did you guys have?
Go ahead.
We have a couple, so, and this may be something you're gonna cover later, but we were just wondering, when you talk about, like when you bring up policies, like maybe for new parents, so not necessarily for grandparents, but new parents, kind of getting their kids off on the right financial track, or like how do you bring that up? And then do you typically do like universal life or 10 pay? And then kind of in one more question, but do you talk about college savings when you
Yeah.
talk about that?
So, you know, when there's a new child, I say, number one, we want to make sure we protect their insurability. And then I use my son JJ's story, and you can use my son JJ's story because now you've heard it. And like I said, if you don't have a story, you can borrow a story. So just say, look, we number one, we want to protect their insurability. But there's a lot of other reasons why. You can use this for a college education fund. It can be used for the savings of a down payment on a first house. There's no 59.5 penalty for taking money out of a life insurance policy prior to 59.5 if it's not a MEC contract. And so there's a lot of reasons why we should do it, but the other thing is life insurance is cheap when you're young. A baby's life insurance costs almost nothing, and so let's get it. Like, how many of you, if you could go back to when you were a baby, if State Farm offered you the baby insurance policy rates, that you could go back, original issue age policy, and go back and buy whole life as a baby, how many of you would go back and do it? And how big of a policy you'd buy? You'd buy as big as you could buy. So take them there and say, man, we were just with a whole room of insurance agents, and this guy said, what if you could go back and be a baby? How much life insurance would you buy? Everybody said a bunch. So let's do that. You got a baby, let's buy a bunch. So I mean, just show them that it makes a lot of sense to buy this when you're young and healthy. We protect your insurability. We're starting, you know, young people have time on their side. And for you millennials, here's the deal. Interest rates are so low, it's not like you can invest at 5 and 10 or 15%. So you've got to just get time on your side and keep putting as much money aside as you can. And a baby's a perfect time to save. Because in record time, they will be going to college. You wouldn't even believe how fast they go to college. And college is super expensive now. I got 2 going through right now, and I've already had put 2 through. So I mean, I got 4 of them. It's not cheap.
And then would you look at a UL typically for that?
Okay,
or
so
a-
UL, if they're kind of flaky parents, but if they're solid, they got good incomes, they, you know, that maybe a 10 pay whole life would be great. But a lot of people are kind of flaky, so then, you know, you lean towards universal life on flaky. Yes?
And I have a question about both, because I usually like to sell ULs, is because I can see the interest rate that they can get at retirement age is pretty good.
Mhm.
So that's something that I'm used to sell. Because, okay, they don't wanna talk about that, but they wanna talk about money when they're retired. Now, why whole life, I never really even thought about, because when I see it, the benefit is not as big, but then now you're saying actually it's better.
Benefit will be bigger. So the way you can prove that to yourself, run a whole life on yourself. Just run a whole life for like 100,000 or 500,000. Just pick a number, run that, and then run a UL for you with the same face amount. And then for the premium, match the premium of the whole life, because you can put more in a UL. So match the premiums and then run it. So now you got apples to apples. You got a 500,000, and this is, you know, 5,000 a year. Now you got 500,000, 5,000 a year. Run both of them, and you will see that the whole life beats the UL. Yeah. But run that so that you see it. And if you're more comfortable selling UL, sell UL. I'm just saying, I've seen more problems with ULs blow up in later ages because they didn't fund it properly, and you don't have that problem with whole life. But UL's more flexible if they have financial problems in the near term, they get a divorce or something, then you can stop the premiums, whereas with whole life you really can't stop it. I mean, you can stop it for a month or 2, but you're gonna have to make those up or that thing's gonna lapse.
When you're saying you're not funding it properly, so are you
supposed to tell them they need to pay more than the premium that it's giving you?
Well,
when
the
you
target
start it?
premium or the illustrative premium is there normally, under normal conditions, that should be okay. But if they wanna be careful, I would overfund it. I would put more in there. I'd put more in there, because you wanna build that cash value up as much as possible, so you don't have a problem in your 70s and 80s or 90s that all of a sudden this policy blows up. Because there's not enough cash, and the premium, the term policy keeps going up and up and up and up and up, and start eating more and more and more.
Okay, so my question would be how to warmly approach, I guess I should say, someone coming in who is even struggling to pay an SFPP bill. They have a hard time paying their bills, they are low income, but they need it.
Yep.
How do you go about not?
Look, I mean, sometimes we can't help everybody. I would still recommend it. I would recommend as much as they can afford. I mean, you know, if they need 3 million and all they can afford is 250,000, I'm gonna sell them 250,000. And if they say, well, I can't afford that, then I'm gonna take a little deeper look at their lifestyle. Because a lot of times what they'll say is, I can't afford it, and they're struggling. They just went to sandals, they got Nike tennis shoes, they got the Apple 10 phone, they got Dish TV at home. Okay, well, that's not an income problem. That is a spending problem. And you know, back in the day when I was an advisor, I would literally write the ads, because this would be for Craigslist, and you had to put an ad in the paper. I would write the ad for the paper. We're selling 2 pickup trucks, we're selling the boat, we're selling the jet ski, because I pull up their house, you know, they got 3 pickups, 2 cars, a boat, a jet ski, an RV, and a satellite dish. Oh, we don't have any money. I said, no, here's the problem. You're at the end of the line. See, my job is to move you to the front of the line. You're supposed to pay yourself first. See, right now, I see you're paying the car dealer, you're paying insurance, you're paying the phone company, you're paying all these other people, and you're at the end of the line and you're saying there's no money. My job is to move you to the front of the line. You should pay yourself first. This 10 pay is gonna pay yourself first. This is going to you first. Pay yourself first, then get all this stuff. These people have no business going to sandals and having 3 pickup trucks and a jet ski and what are they thinking? What are they thinking? See, here's another power phrase. You do not get wealthy in America by putting your money into depreciating assets. You get wealthy in America by putting your money into appreciating assets. And by the way, a 10 pay is an appreciating asset. But this car, depreciating asset. Your phone, depreciating asset. Your vacation, depreciating asset. Your boat, depreciating asset. Those are all depreciating assets. Why would you put the majority of your money into things that are going down every single day? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's American. It's the American way. But I don't live that way. And any wealthy person that you know does not live that way. Wealthy people don't live that way. They pay themselves first. I work hard. I'm not gonna pay all these other people. I'm paying me first. So you gotta kind of take that as an attitude that you're gonna help your clients pay themselves first. Too many people are listening to the American thing, oh, I gotta have this, and it's all about things, and it's about stuff. It's not about things, it's not about stuff. Get rid of your stuff, get rid of your things. You'll be happier, and you'll be wealthier. Yes?
I have 2 questions. Number 1, on grandkids and kids. Microphone, excuse me. On the grandkids and kids, our number 1 objection is, let me look at Gerber, or I have Gerber.
Yeah.
I'm not been able to find much on their financial wherewithal to be able to.
Have you seen how bad the Gerber policy is? What you ought to do is you ought to get an illustration for Gerber for their kid, and they only sell like $10,000 policies. So
Correct.
they sell small 10 and 25,000. So get it, and then match it. The State Farm's cash value will be 20 times, 50 times what a Gerber policy is. Gerber is cheap because it's crap. It doesn't build cash value. They don't even ask underwriting questions. You know, are you breathing? Yes. Okay, you get it. Okay, that's it. And so when you take that stance, think about it. They're not underwriting, so of course it's going to be a crappy policy. State Farm's going to ask some underwriting questions. Well, on a baby, it's not going to matter anyway. The baby's going to get approved pretty much, almost unless they've had serious health problems right out the gate. And so State Farm will blow away any Gerber policy. You're not even in the same ballpark, not even the same zip code.
Okay, I appreciate
Going
that.
a little bit about that question, how do you go about competing with another, companies that are selling insurance?
Yeah.
It happened to me and I have to fight with another company, buying this thing, but I have to tell her why we were better.
Yep.
And it cost me a little research, which
Yep.
is okay.
Yep.
Get that close to the deal, but it's getting after even thinking about them?
Well, you know, I talk in the book, it's not just about rates, it's also about ratings. State Farm is a AAA mutual company. That's a big deal. So the only competitors that you should really compare against State Farm are New York Life or Mass Mutual. Those are AAA mutual companies, right? So MetLife doesn't fit in that category. Prudential doesn't. Allstate, American Family, none of them fit in that category. So you're only dealing with maybe Guardian, maybe 4 or 5 AAA mutual companies. That's your competition, not, you know, Blowing Sands of New Mexico Life Insurance Company or something. So number one, you want to say, you got to understand, State Farm is a AAA mutual company. We're owned by our customers. Stockholders do not own State Farm. The customers own State Farm, and we're AAA. So because of that, you know we're going to be around for the next 500 years, because that you don't get that rating unless your books are totally clean and that you've got all your investments squared away. So it's not just that all insurance companies are the same. That's what people want to think. They're not. You're dealing with a AAA mutual. So yes, you got to know the competition. And I'll give you an example. When I was at MetLife, I competed pretty regularly with New York Life. Well, I ended up working for New York. But when I was competing against them, I found the secret to competing against New York Life. They would offer an annual renewable term policy, where the first year they put the term really low, but then they jumped up really fast. Well, all the people do when they're shopping, they just look at the first year rate. They just look, okay, well, they're $18 a month, and MetLife's $20 a month. But I would show them that in 5 years, MetLife was $22 a month, and New York Life was $32 a month. So I said, look, if you keep this policy just even 3 years, we're going to be cheaper. And so you kind of got to, sometimes you got to dig in and find out the competitor, find out what their weakness is, and then exploit that. But then also talk about the strength of New York, or the strength of State Farm. That you are AAA mutual, and I normally carry my Fortune magazine. I didn't have it here, but Fortune magazine had a listing, and 2 years ago, you were more profitable than Nationwide, Amazon, Allstate, American Family, and one more combined, Starbucks combined. And so I pulled all that right out of Fortune magazine. So those would all be things. So talk about the strength of State Farm, but then talk about how you are better policy than what you're competing against.
I like that. That's good.
Any other questions so far? All right.
All right. Well, let's get into questions. Okay. Why are questions? I said it's a words business, a language business, a questions business, a stories. Why are questions so important? Well, here's why. Number one, asking questions avoids arguments. How many people have ever had an argument with a customer? It doesn't end well. I've been there. Why does it happen? Because you say something very strong one way, or they say something very strong one way that you agree the exact opposite of. Just like never mention the word Trump on any appointment. Just don't go there, okay? Because half the people love him, half the people hate him. I promise you, you're going to tick off people if you go down those. So instead of saying what you think is so important, ask them what they think is important. Just ask questions. You won't get into arguments. Asking questions avoids helping you stop talking too much. Look, I was a manager too, and I would take agents on appointments, and I'd say, okay, you watched me the last 3 times, now it's your turn. And guess what? You know what I know new agents do? They talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. I want to kick them under the table. Shut up, start asking questions. Stop talking. Talk less. Ask more. Telling is not selling. Telling is not selling. Listening is selling. Asking is selling. If you ask more questions, you're going to write more business. Stop telling. Start listening. Start asking. So ask a lot more questions. Asking questions helps a person recognize what they really want. It crystallizes their thinking. It becomes their idea. Asking questions helps you get to the key issues faster. And when you ask questions, it shows you respect their opinions. And when you respect their opinions, guess what? They're going to respect your opinions. So let me give you some good life insurance questions. Oh wait, you're going to have them give me
Yes.
life insurance
All right,
questions.
okay. So how many of you have appointments with clients for life insurance? All right, I bet you have some good questions that you ask the customer, Pat questions. Turn to page 12. In your workbooks, what we want you to do right now is come up with 2 to 5 different questions that you feel the table thinks are great questions to ask when you're having a life insurance meeting with a customer. So think about the ones that you're asking right now you think are pretty powerful. So take a few minutes, talk amongst yourself, let's list it out, and then Tom is gonna go through even more questions. Fair enough? All right, we wanna hear your questions.
Give me your most powerful question.
I was asking what debt do you have? What's your mortgage, what's your car payment, credit cards, what is your debt? And then I asked what is your income? I try to do that life needs analysis form. Just
I'm gonna write that down.
You know what? I have a good, powerful question. So I'll say, and I always like this one almost chokes me up too. So if I'm talking to a dad, I'll say, because my dad actually died in a car accident when I was 16. So I'll say something like this: if something happened to you, would it be important to you that there were some money set aside so that your daughter could have, a beautiful wedding and not a real budget wedding, so that even though you're not there to walk her down the aisle, you're really there in spirit with her, so that, because I think that one, yeah, right? That one kind of gets you, because it's like, she's not on some budget wedding at the, the Best Western in the lawn. She has this beautiful wedding, and she knows that you provided that. So you're not there to walk her down the aisle, but, you're really there. And isn't that a good one? And I'll do the same thing for college, too. I'll say, would it be important to you if you're not there? Do you plan on helping with college? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, would it be important to you if you're not there, something happened to you tomorrow, that there was already a fund set up, so that at least the education is taken care of? Those are a couple that I do.
I always ask, what I do ask, like, I keep trying to, I can't close it, but I've been trying with my nieces, like, how much are you paying for daycare, diapers? How would you pay for that if something happens to the dad? How are you going to pay for that? Because I'm like, add up how much daycare costs, add up how much formula costs, and that stuff. And so, like, I'm getting them to think of, like, how they'll pay for it.
Sometimes what I'll do is I'll ask, like, because it's not always the same. Like, sometimes if it's like a single mom or something and the dad's like a deadbeat or whatever, I'll say, well, who would raise your daughter if something happened to you? Well, my mom would. Well, would it be important to you, or my sister, that there were enough money there so that, for science camps, clothes, things like that, so that money's just not an issue, that she can focus on, the kid and all of that, so maybe just slightly saying, well, would it be important to you that, your wife were able to have those things that she has now, diapers and formula, and maybe not have to put, maybe the kids stay, mom stays home. Would it be important to you that maybe your daughter doesn't have to go to daycare and a big lifestyle change and stuff like that? Just painting the picture a little more of like what would happen if, it's kind of like the way I like to jab it in there,
That's good.
Painting that picture of somebody suffering and struggling.
Yeah. People don't realize how much, like, how bad it would be.
Another one that's good too is you can say, like, would it be like, so let's say again you're talking to like the spouse and it's like the father. This one usually works better with the father. I'll say, would it be important if something were to happen to you that your wife would feel like, she didn't have to get remarried right away? Because I see a lot of situations where they do. Maybe the guy's not so nice to the kids, but she's kind of stuck. So would it be important to you that she had her, enough money that was a choice that she could make and not feel like she had to,
All right, listen up, guys.
yeah.
That would haunt.
You would never be
All right, Richard.
All right, so these guys came up with the questions. They're good. So they have life insurance when you talk about it. There's a lot of people will come, you'll ask them, they say, oh, I've got that covered. They want to blow it off. They don't want to really talk. So the question is, why did you buy the life insurance you have? And then the next question they came up with was, if you don't have enough life insurance, when would you want to know?
Mm-hmm.
And then the next question was, what's your plan should one or both of you die unexpectedly? Who's going to take care of the children?
All right, pretty good, huh?
Yeah, no, those are all very good.
Excellent. All right, very thought-provoking. All right, your team had some going on here, right? Well, whatever you guys came up with, I thought it was going to be a team.
Okay, what do you do for a living? What do you do for fun? Who do you have your life insurance with? What will happen
to your family if you were not there? And when do you want to retire? By what age? And then I ask them, so what's the plan? Travel? And they say no. They're like, how come? Why? Well, money. Or they say yes. Oh, and how you gonna do it? How much money you have? And that's what I
Very good.
Good. What did you have?
Ask about their goals, where they see themselves in 3 years, 5 years. And I actually worked as a team guy from her. She said, what keeps you up at night? So what's on your mind? What's bothering them?
All right, good. Any other questions? Lillian, what would you miss?
Oh, there's like if you have an ATM at home, if you would go every month, just pull money as you need it. If that ATM's not working, what would you do?
Oh, go. All right, good. Juan?
If I handed you a check for your policy amount, would you be able to quit and leave your job tomorrow and live comfortably?
Yeah, very good question.
Yeah. Nice. All right. What about
that's
your
a
team?
great
What
one.
you guys come up with?
Are you confident your family is taken care of if you die, when you die, or if you die prematurely? Do you want your family to be financially stable if you pass away prematurely?
Okay. Good. What question are we missing?
So basically, you would ask if you want, would you like the policy to be in place when you die? And that means, so that's how you would determine if they want term or permanent.
What do people usually say? Yes. Yeah. Right? Okay. All right, any other question? Juan?
So you, people that say they have a certain amount, or if they're set with like 100,000 or even 500,000, I said, okay, so if I give you a check for that amount, would you be able to quit your job tomorrow and be set? Because that's practically what's gonna happen when they pass for their partner. What's that? Well, I guess you're thinking.
How about your team? What'd you come up with?
I like the wedding.
Go ahead.
We had quite a few, but they were kind of more specific situations. But one of the ones that we kind of came up with was if something happened to you. If we're talking to specifically fathers, it's a good one for fathers. If something happened to you, would you want to have like a fund set aside so that if you knew you were going to die tomorrow, your daughter wasn't going to have a budget wedding. She was going to have a beautiful dream wedding. And so even though you're not there to walk her down the aisle, you know that she knows that you're really there with her, that you did that for her. So, and then along the similar lines, it doesn't have to be like a father or a daughter situation, but you could say, if something happened to you tomorrow, or you just ask them, hey, do you plan on helping out with college expenses? And if they say yes, would it be important to you if something happened to you tomorrow to have a fund set aside for the kids so that you know that that's taken care of? They know that you took care of that for them.
Yep,
All right,
those are
good
very good.
ones. All right, anything else? We missing any? All right, well, let's even drill down further.
Right.
All right, so here's some good life insurance questions. Tell me about your understanding of life insurance and how it works. Just tell me what you know about life insurance. And while I'm going through this list, think about, would you make a better presentation if you knew the answers to these before you made your presentation? I think, if you knew what they knew about life insurance, it's going to help you make a presentation. What is your philosophy about life insurance? People say, oh, I only need it when the kids are young, and then when the kids are out, I won't need it anymore. Well, now you might have to dig a little deeper and talk to them about it, the importance of life insurance and retirement as well. Where did you learn about life insurance? Oh, my daddy was a Mass Mutual agent for 45 years. Wouldn't you want to know that? They'd probably be more inclined to buy permanent life insurance if you knew that. So ask them that. Where does life insurance fit in your overall plan? What are your thoughts around term insurance? I hate it. I love it. Wouldn't you want to know that before you present a 10-pay whole life to them? Just find out where their head is around life insurance. What are your thoughts around cash value life insurance? How did you determine how much life insurance you need? You called me up, you said you wanted a $200,000 term policy. How did you figure that out? Just get in their mind so that you understand how they're thinking, so then maybe you can communicate a little more effectively with some of the things that you've learned here. Here's some really deep life insurance questions. If you knew you were going to die tomorrow, how much life insurance would you get today? As much as I could get. Great, let's apply for that. Did you know you can apply for that? As much as you will issue for, you can put that down. If life insurance was free, how much would you want? As much as I could get. Great, let's apply for that. If you were hit by a drunk driver, for you millennials, if you were hit by a texting driver, how much would your family sue for? You said you want $200,000 of term. I promise you, if you were killed tomorrow by a drunk driver, your family would not hire an attorney and sue for $200,000. You know how much they'd sue for? $3.7 million, because that's your human life value that we put in this calculator. So that's how much life insurance you should really have. These are just ways to bring this subject up and just to communicate a little more clearly with them. Here's some questions for wealthy customers. What is the purpose of your wealth? That is a powerful question. You got all this money, what's the purpose? You don't get to take any of it with you. I tell people this all the time. Two things. Number one, you're not getting any younger. Number two, you don't get to take any of it with you. So what's the purpose of your wealth? You ought to think about that. What do you really want for your children and grandchildren? What do you really want for them? How much is enough? How can you empower your children to reach their dreams? Are equal and fair the same in inheritance matters? What if you got a farmer and his wife, and the son is taking over the farm, but the daughter is a school teacher somewhere. She's entitled to half the farm, but the son needs the whole farm to make it work. How are you going to do that? You're going to split the farm in half? Or can you use life insurance to go to the daughter and have the son keep the farm? See, you don't have to treat people equally. You have to treat them fairly, equitably, and sometimes life insurance can do that. How will you protect assets from creditors and divorce? Does your estate plan reinforce your core values, or does it just deal with stuff? Most estate plans just deal with stuff. Will your plan encourage your children to acquire their own wealth, or just to consume yours? Will the date of your death become the date of your heir's retirement? Those are just different questions that they're not getting from everybody, and you can stick out a little if you can ask some of these questions. Are the chosen trustees qualified and prepared financially and emotionally? Do you know how many people have named their sons and daughters as trustees, and the son's had 3 DWIs, he's been arrested, should he really be the trustee of that account? But do they think about this? And so these are some things to walk through with them. How do you want to be remembered by your children, your grandchildren, and favorite charities? Life insurance can go to a charity. Do you know some people, they want to have a library wing named after them, or they want to have a building named after them? Did you know that a lot of places, if you buy a policy and you pay up the policy and name the charity as the owner and the beneficiary, and it's fully paid up, that they will give you credit for the $10 million donation, even though it costs you $1 million to buy a $10 million policy? They'll let you put your name on a building for $10 million if you buy the whole policy. So I'm just saying, how do you want to be remembered? Is there an institution, a church, a charity, or a school that you'd like to leave a meaningful legacy? Again, this is for your wealthier clients. Here's some life insurance power phrases. Life insurance is simply money. You get dollars for pennies. Remember when I said we bought $1 million policy for our kids? It cost us $150,000. So for 15 cents on the dollar, we get to transfer $1 million to our kids. When is that not a good deal? Why couldn't you talk to anybody about that? They say, oh, I want to leave my kids $25,000. Okay, how much does a $25,000 policy cost? It doesn't cost $25,000. Maybe it costs $5,000 to buy a $25,000 policy. So show all of your clients that they can leave more money to their kids, or they can leave the same amount for a less amount by using life insurance. You're buying dollars for pennies. Life insurance is time. Will you have the time to become wealthy? They say, I'm not going to need life insurance, I'm going to be rich. Dave Ramsey says, I'm going to be rich. Yeah, what happens if you get hit by a texting driver? You're not rich. Life insurance gives you the time to become wealthy. No other product in the world can do what life insurance will do. I do this in every seminar. Think about it this way. There is no other product in the world that will replace a life insurance policy. There's no stock or bond or real estate investment trust that on the day you die will spring up and be worth $5 million. Only life insurance can do that. There's no product that can replace a life insurance policy. To sell life insurance, you should own a lot of it. You want to increase your life insurance? You should all have $1 million policy sitting right on your desk. Let me show you my $1 million policy. Let me show you my $5 million policy. You want to sell bigger policies? Own bigger policies. Because if you don't own $1 million, you can't even think about it. How can you even relate to recommending $5 million if you only own $200,000 life insurance? You'll never be able to sell it. But if you own it, you believe in it, and you say, look what I got my $1 million policy right here, they're gonna take you more serious. Would you like to go to the bank, or would you like to be the bank? Have you ever seen those commercials, bankonyourself.com, or they got all these things with bank? That's whole life insurance. You know, I'm a small business owner, right? And the agents in here, you're small business owners. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but it's happened to me. Where all of a sudden, like out of the blue, you didn't even expect it, but your revenues went down sharply for whatever reason, at the same time your expenses went up sharply. And it's like, what the heck just happened? And if that hasn't happened to you, it probably will happen to you. Well, guess what? I've got over $1 million sitting in my whole life policy. I can take money out of there anytime I want. Did you know this? When you go to the bank, do you know who the bank lends money to? People who don't need money. They won't ever lend you money. If you need money, they will not lend you money. They only lend money to people who don't need money, because you got to show collateral. So the bank will only lend you money if you have money and you don't need it. But if you need money, they won't lend you money. This is true. You go to the bank. If you're dead broke, you go to the bank and say, hey, I need $1 million. They're going to laugh you right out the door. They only lend to people who don't need money. If you really need money, that's when it would be nice to have a policy that you've got $50,000 or $100,000 or $200,000 of cash value that you can actually be the bank. It is great for business owners and entrepreneurs and farmers. Do you know many farmers across the country, they've got whole life policies? You know why? Because their daddy did, their granddaddy did. And if you know anything about the farming business, is it like this or is it like this? You know, you got some oil around here, I think. We're in Texas, right? Isn't there some oil around here? Guess what the oil industry looks like? This. Well, guess what? People in those kinds of businesses tend to buy big whole life policies, because when the market goes like this, they go to their whole life policy, they take money out. When the market goes like this, they put money in their whole life policy. When the market goes like this, they take money out of their whole life. So they use that to be the bank. So I'm just saying, these are other things you can talk to people about. The premium is not the problem, it's the solution. When people say, oh, I can't afford it, you say, no, you can't afford not to. The premium is not the problem. The problem is, if something happened to you, your family's screwed. I mean, they're out, they gotta move out of the house, can't go to the same school, you gotta sell the cars, you gotta sell everything. Your family be wiped out. That's the problem. This is the solution. This premium is the solution to the problem. The problem is, if something happens to you, your family's in big trouble. This is the solution to the problem. This policy is not the problem. This is the solution to the problem. There's a guy by the name of Howard White, and I just found out he just died a few weeks ago. And so anyway, Howard used to go around the country kind of doing what I'm doing, but his big deal was the 1% solution. What Howard White tried to do is he sold really large policies to very rich people, and he did it by trying to make it very small. I don't need 10%, just give me 1%. Just give me 1% of your income, 1% of your assets, 1% of your net worth, 1% of your 401k, and I'll protect the other. So here's what he did. He would draw an asset allocation. Okay, you got your large cap, you got your mid cap, you got your international, you got government bonds, corporate bonds, and most people have about 10% cash. He said, look, you can still have 9% cash. I just want 1%. Just give me 1% for your life insurance plan. And he went around and he wrote hundreds of millions of dollars of life insurance just getting 1%. And some of the things he would say is this: estate tax funding, let 1% of your estate protect the other 99%. Key man insurance or key person insurance, let 1% of your sales protect the other 99% of your sales. Buy-sell funding, let 1% of your business's value protect the other 99%. Family income, let 1% per year provide the life insurance your family will need to replace your income. Wealth accumulation, let 1% of your income or 1% of your net worth each year go into a policy to accumulate wealth for your retirement. Now, I say 1% works with wealthy people. 1% is not going to work with your low income people. 1% of nothing is nothing. So like with some people, they're going to have to put 2% or 5% or 10%, but with your wealthy people, just try to make it as small as you can. Take 1 or 2% of their income or 1 or 2% of their net worth or 1 or 2% of their 401k and show them how that can buy a lot of life insurance. Is that clear? This is a powerful one. Now, this is not gonna fit all of you. This you're not gonna feel comfortable, but I did this all the time. I'd be on an appointment, a husband and wife, and the husband says, well, I got 200,000 at work and that's plenty. I don't want her to get too much because she's gonna run off with Fred at the bowling alley. They've been flirting the last 3 months anyway, and I don't wanna make her rich. And so what I would do is I'd go, bam, you just got hit by a drunk driver. For you millennials, bam, you just got hit by a texting driver. You're gonna be dead for the next 10 minutes. And then I said, now I'm gonna talk to you. Here's what's gonna happen. On the worst day of your life, you're gonna call me, and here's what I'm gonna have to tell you. He's got $200,000 at work. In a 1% interest rate environment, that's $2,000 a year. He's leaving you $166 a month, and he says you're okay. Are you okay with that? Is there anything you'd like to say to him? And then I would shut up. And between the two of them, they would figure this out real quick. Even in a 5% interest rate environment, you're only gonna get about $600 or $700 a month. Is there anything you would like to say to him? He doesn't wanna make you rich. You see, another answer to that, I don't wanna make him rich, but I don't wanna make my spouse rich. I'll say this to him. I'll make a deal with you. I'll make sure that I don't ever let her become rich if you make me the deal that you'll never allow her to become poor. Or vice versa, if the women's making money, I'll make a deal that I'll make sure he never gets rich if you make sure he never gets poor. Because right now, if he's got 200,000 at work and he says that's enough, is he making her rich? By any stretch of any imagination, is she rich? No, she's poor. So I'll make him a deal. I'll make sure she doesn't get rich if you make sure she doesn't get poor. That's power phrase right there, okay? All right.
A lot of people.
Got some questions?
Do you have any?
Are you going to break? Yeah. Well, let's then do some questions, then do a break.
Yeah, questions. On the 1%.
Or on anything that I've covered in just since the last
Yeah.
question thing. Any other questions? We are going to handle objections here in a little while, but if you have an objection, we can table them. Any other questions? Let me show you. I did that by term and invested difference. Remember when I said I would show you this by term and invested difference thing?
Oh,
So
good.
I did this during the break. So here's the deal. Somebody says they want to buy term and invested difference, and I'm just trying to make very simple numbers. So buy term and invested difference versus a universal life policy. And let's say they're going to buy term and invested difference. They put $400 a year into term. They put $600 a year into the investments versus $1,000 a year into UL. Okay? Same face amount. Well, over 30 years, they're going to spend $12,000 on term life insurance. 30 times 400 is $12,000. They're going to invest $18,000 because 30 times 600 is 18,000, or they'll put 30,000 in the UL. So we're tracking so far, 30,000 UL versus 12,000 for term, 18,000. Well, let's say the investment grows to be worth 50,000, and let's say the policy grows to be worth 50,000. Well, all of a sudden you can see there's a tremendous value to the universal life policy, because if you sell that policy or transfer it or cancel it, there's only a $20,000 gain in the UL policy. There's a $32,000 gain in the investment. Why is that happening? Because all the term insurance got thrown away. That money counted for nothing. Whereas all the term insurance inside of UL counted towards the cost basis of that policy. So you got a tax advantage term policy, whereas over here you didn't. I mean, that's just a simple way of explaining it, but that's what I'm trying to tell you, that if they say they want to buy term and invest the difference, a universal life policy will do that, but you have tax advantages inside of it. All right? Gonna take any other questions? Yes.
So you were just saying that the investment started off at, you're putting $600 a month.
600 a year. I'm just
Okay.
trying to keep this simple. This could be a month. Well, this is a year right now.
Okay,
because I'm
gotcha.
doing 30 years.
Okay, and then in 30 years, the 600 a year has grown to 18,000.
Well, no, that you would have put in 18,000, and I'm saying that had grown to 50,000.
Okay, gotcha,
So,
gotcha, okay.
depending on where it was invested. I'm just trying to make it apples to apples.
Got it.
I'm just saying that this has a $32,000 gain, this has a $20,000 gain, because the term insurance inside of here counted towards this, whereas the term over here is gone, counted for nothing. It was just 12,000 gone. Whereas the 12,000 of term over here counted towards this, so you got tax advantage term life insurance.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's something that less than 2% of the agents in this business understand this.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
cool.
just trying to show you some secrets.
Yeah.
Should we take 10? Take 10-minute break and we're coming back. More life insurance.